Aspen is our automated study platform for integrated evidence generation. It is tech-enabled, network-based solution to support research in a flexible, scalable manner. Aspen leverages proprietary data acquisition, processing, and enrichment to execute studies efficiently and cost-effectively. The capabilities of Aspen address challenges that have persisted in drug development for decades. By bringing together technology, depth of site relationship, and expert operational services, we are able to shift research from a linear paradigm to more of a reusable ecosystem that is flexible and scalable. This allows us to deliver cost-effective, efficient solutions for accelerated real-world evidence generation. Aspen is differentiated in three key areas. Firstly, technology. We have proprietary data acquisition, processing, and enrichment capabilities. Secondly, we have depth of site relationships and a ready network that allows us to access sites with the right patients, as well as registry data. Importantly, we have a team that is able to design and execute against studies. This includes clinicians, epidemiologists, biostatisticians, regulatory experts, as well as operations teams that are all well-versed in the use of real-world data and observational research. A new approach is needed primarily to get medicines to patients faster. The traditional paradigm is linear with discrete studies that are costly and have long protracted timelines and a high burden to patients and sites. And there additionally are challenges around bias and inclusion into studies. We are looking to automate this process and create a flexible ecosystem that allows for accelerated real-world evidence generation, again, to get medicines to patients faster.
So those of us in the real-world evidence space were eagerly awaiting the release of these guidance documents from the FDA, guidance documents for industry, and several of them were released over the last 2 years. They provided much greater detail on standards for data that's emanating from real-world data, EHR, claims, and registry data. The overarching theme from these guidance documents was describing the standards for getting data that are quote unquote fit for purpose. So what does the FDA mean by that? They're describing data that are both relevant and reliable within a very specific regulatory context. So that means that the data have to be of sufficient quality. They have to be coming from the right patients or the right target population, the ones you're intending to generalize to. There has to be sufficient detail and completeness of data used to characterize patients at baseline as well as their prognosis over time. So in short, that you've got all the right data elements and they're present and complete. Aspen, where this comes into play, is that we can apply a bespoke, a strategic approach to target the right patient networks, health systems as partners. And this is really critical for meeting these standards set forth by the FDA. So using Aspen, we source data in a way that are not only traceable, meaning their provenance at the point of care is assured, but we also have much better control over both reliability and relevance of data. I'll add that this is really mission critical for regulatory grade data, but it's also a useful framework for all studies, frankly, especially those that might be aiming to influence clinical practice guidelines or clinical care in any way. The quality of evidence and the inferences that can be drawn from such kinds of platforms are just more reliable in general, kind of allowing us to achieve that fitness for use or fitness for purpose that's really important for all kinds of contexts, even outside of regulatory standards. As one example of this in play, we've partnered with one major device company using Aspen on several cancer screening studies. We've been able to recruit networks that feature leading clinical thought leaders in the fields, these fields of interest, who also have the right EMR systems to capture the information that's important for patient characterization and prognostication, and also tumor registries that feature very high degrees of completeness. These are also networks that have facility existing data sharing agreements with OM1, which really facilitates the rapid capture of this high quality data. So all of this has come together to build a really enduring real-world data platform that supported the conduct of many investigations, many manuscripts, including those that have supported the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force guidelines and regulatory marketing claims.
As you know, we've spent many years working in the registry field, having authored and been the principal investigator for the HRQ handbook, Registries for Evaluating Patient Outcomes, a User's Guide, starting with the first edition in 2007 and the most recent fourth edition in 2020. So I feel I have a good vantage on how registries have evolved. I think the most important aspects of registries are that they have become more important. They've become vital in understanding and evaluating drugs and devices as they approach approval and as they go through approval, and have even been used to help secure approval in some cases. But what we've seen and we described in the 2020 edition of the handbook is the movement to automation. The problem with registries is over the many years, they have become more like clinical trials in terms of the data collection burden. And where we needed to move was the ability to leverage data in new ways to enable that to not be a barrier, but an opportunity to bring in more sites, more patients with less bias. So the movement has been to larger studies, larger registries, and the only way that's been able to occur is what Aspen offers, which is the ability to automate that data collection, that data processing, that opportunity to link to existing data sets that may already exist so that data does not need to be recollected, such as Medicare claims, other claims, social determinants of health. And by doing that, both actively and passively collect information, at least from the provider and patient perspective, to compile a research ready and regulatory ready data set, again, striving to utilize the benefits of automation as we're doing now through Aspen. So OM1 views patient registries as a critical part of evidence generation as we move into the next few decades. That requires this ability to both increase the size and improve the enrollment of patients in those registries. One of the problems to date has been that when patients are enrolled manually, you get certain types of biases, just like you see in clinical trials, where on a particular day of the week, a clinician may be, too busy to enroll patients, or may opt to enroll patients that are not as diverse as the full population of patients that they see. By automating the identification of patients and the enrollment of patients into registries, we can overcome those issues and biases, and then be able to look at really important types of questions, such as access issues and other things that have become more and more important as we understand the role of social determinants of health in both inclusion in studies and registries and trials, as well as being able to provide more health information for a broader set of patients that see clinicians. So the support that we hope to be able to provide, again, is through this leveraging automated study platforms, leveraging clinical narratives through large language models, medical language processing, and estimation, meaning estimation of endpoints that may not be obvious within the clinical narrative, but leveraging the rich clinical narrative so that you don't need to require the clinician to enter more information, but you're leveraging the true source document, which is the medical record, in a direct way and in a scalable way. So our goal is to make registries more scalable, more cost efficient, more representative, more opportunities for feedback back to providers and to patients, more opportunities to link the information with other data assets that we or others hold to enhance the totality of the information set that's available and the amount of follow-up that's available, to leverage the ability to pull records directly on behalf of patients electronically to bring additional follow-up information that may not be available to a particular site, to do all of these things through what we call automation, what we're calling Aspen, and to integrate all of these capabilities together to give the most integrated evidence solution for registries.